You're watching Cape Media News, brought to you by Cape Media Center.
Tonight on Cape Media News, South Dennis Congregational Church shows off historic organ.
Plus, snowy owls make a return to Cape Cod.
And a recap of this week in sports.
These stories and more are coming up next on Cape Media News.
Good evening and welcome to Cape Media News, your source for hyperlocal news that matters. I'm Jamie Horton.
And I'm Suzanne Tenaire. Did you know that Dennis is home to the oldest working pipe organ still in continuous use? Located in the South Dennis Congregational Church on Bass River Road, the organ was built in 1762 in London and shipped to Dennis in 1854. Take a look.
This organ, I've had the privilege of being here for several years. It's an antique English chamber organ, but it was built by a Swiss organ builder who spent his whole life working in London. The latter part of the 18th century, he was considered one of the best organ builders in the country. He built organs for King George III, you know, the infamous one during the Revolution. So this organ was built in 1762, a few years before the American Revolution. And it's a treasure because of the sounds that it has. Well, this organ has 9 different sounds, sets of pipes that are controlled, each one by these stops, draw knobs. So if I pull one of these draw knobs, it opens up that set of pipes that this controls, those particular sounds, and the air goes up into that. If I close it, it cuts off the airflow, so then there's silence. So let me just play a quick hymn, and I'll pull a couple of the different stops during the hymn. The only way to get louder or softer is to push or pull stops. There's one in the Smithsonian built by John Schnetzler 1 year before this one. And it's about half the size of this organ. It was intended for a house. This is a chamber organ. It's a very small instrument, not built for large halls. The organ came over in 1763 and was built for a music hall in Boston. A few decades after that, it went to Providence in for a church. And they found it was too small at that time. They wanted a bigger organ, so it was put into organ shops for several decades, I think. And then in the 1850s, the sea captains of this church decided they wanted an organ. It's really a nice sounding instrument. And it's been in this church since the 1850s.
Cape Cod People Against Trafficking Humans is hosting their 4th annual Human Trafficking Awareness event this month. Since January 2022, local leaders, law enforcement, social workers, nonprofits, rescuers, and survivors have united to shed light on the injustice of human trafficking on Cape Cod. These events have sparked anti-trafficking initiatives, strengthened community action, and inspired meaningful change. This year, local nonprofit Changing the World will host a discussion on 2024's progress and share ways you can help fight trafficking in 2025. The event, on January 31st at 6 p.m., will feature a surprise guest, a survivor, child advocate, and national speaker sharing her powerful journey from trauma to triumph. Awareness saves lives. Join Cape Cod PATH, the Treasured Life Initiative, and Changing the World at Great Awakening Coffee House in Hyannis for a night of hope and empowerment. You can register for $7 at capecodpath.org.
Barnstable County is proud to announce its official enrollment as the 960th community in the American Association of Retired Persons network of age-friendly states and communities. By joining the AARP network, Barnstable County gains access to valuable resources, including national and global research, planning models, and best practices. These tools provide a structured framework to guide improvements that benefit residents across all stages of life. The AARP Age-Friendly Network encourages states, counties, cities, towns, and rural areas to understand and prepare for the rapid aging of the nation's population. Through this initiative, elected officials and community leaders work together to strengthen their community services, fostering livable communities from childhood through retirement. Deputy Director of Barnstable County's Human Services said that this enrollment reflects Barnstable County's dedication to creating a more inclusive and supportive community for residents of all ages. Through our collaborative effort, Healthy Aging Cape Cod, we are committed to working with AARP and leveraging this network to promote safety, accessibility, and engagement for everyone. Our goal is to help make Cape Cod a place where people can live and grow older with dignity. For more information about the AARP network of age-friendly communities, you can visit aarp.org/age-friendly or capecod.gov/healthyagingcapecod.
The DY Regional High School Marching Band and Color Guard is excited to announce that they have been promoted to open class for the 2025 season by U.S. bands. This prestigious honor reflects the exceptional talent, hard work, and dedication of the students, instructors, and community sponsors. Their promotion comes after last season's outstanding performances, high scores, and legacy of numerous state and regional championships over the years. The DY School District released their announcement earlier this week, saying that, "We celebrate this incredible achievement with our entire DY community. Our passionate student performers, their supportive families, and the many individuals who make our success possible. Your commitment ensures that music and performance continue to thrive in our schools and beyond."
Animal control offices all over are notifying residents that it is now coyote mating season. For the next 4 to 6 weeks, coyotes will be out and about, searching for mates. During this time period, you may see coyotes more than usual during the day and in neighborhoods and backyards. Dennis animal control officers advise that all pet owners take extra precautions this season, as coyotes can easily scale a 6-foot fence. It's important to keep an eye on your pets, even when they're within the confines of your own yard. Cats should be kept indoors if possible, especially during low light hours like dusk and dawn. Dogs of all sizes should be kept on leashes. And if you have a small dog, you might consider getting an anti-coyote protection vest for extra measure. As pet owners, it's our responsibility to take care of our pets and keep them out of harm's way. It is not abnormal for coyotes to protect themselves if they feel threatened, especially during mating season. For more information on coyotes, visit the Massachusetts Division of Fisheries and Wildlife article at mass.gov/coyotes-in-Massachusetts.
If you've been walking the dunes this season, you may have spotted some surprising Arctic predators visiting our beaches, reminding us that flying south for the winter is relative. Take a look.
While Cape Cod isn't known for its cold weather attractions, last month saw the return of some exotic winter tourists, the snowy owl. Unlike most tourists, these Hedwig lookalikes aren't here to soak up the sun. So what's bringing them to our beaches?
Snowy owls typically live in the Arctic, so you can find them all around, all the way around the Arctic Circle. And the breeding birds, they nest on Arctic tundra. And so what happens is Cape Cod in the winter very much resembles Arctic tundra. With our the grasses and the dune systems and our coastal beaches and shrubs. And so what happens typically is it's usually young birds that come here in the winter, and they're looking for food and basically learning the ropes on how to be an owl.
Snowy owl populations in Massachusetts vary significantly due to weather conditions and food availability in their Arctic breeding grounds. If food is scarce, they migrate in search of more abundant areas.
We know from research from Norman Smith, who works with Mass Audubon, the Snowy Owl Project. We know from his years of research that most of these birds that arrive here are young. And so they have to learn how to hunt, how to evade predators.
But this is no vacation for these feathered friends. Even on our protected beaches in the quiet of winter, there are dangers.
There are threats from being shot illegally, which we do know happens. Also collisions with vehicles, wind towers, communication towers, and sadly rodenticide poisoning, which is utilizing mouse or rat poisons, and these birds get secondary poisoning.
In 2018, Wildcare Cape Cod lost a rescued snowy owl to rodenticide poisoning. This week, an act restricting the use of rodenticides in the environment has been filed, which would phase out the use of commercial-grade rat poisons in Massachusetts and keep our snowy friends safe on the Cape for years to come. Whether or not you support the bill, there are other steps you can take to protect the snowy owls when you're out and about this winter.
So what happens is birders, photographers, observers, sometimes we get a little too close to get that great photo or get a second look, and we can disturb these owls. So we usually recommend, if you see an owl, yes, it's super exciting, and I know you want to get a photo, but make sure you are mindful. Always stay at least 150 feet away. Stay on designated dunes and paths, respect their environment. And also, if the snowy owls do what I call the snowy owl shuffle, which is, if their eyes get wider or they start shifting their feathers, fidgeting, or fly elsewhere, then you are probably too close. And so you need to back off. I really do recommend, if you share photos of owls, don't share the location. Because we have some areas like West Dennis Beach where we have so many people going there to see the owls that it can cause a disturbance. So post your owl photos, but don't, refrain from sharing the location for the safety of the owl.
If you're interested in learning more about these birds of prey, you're in luck. Mass Audubon's next program, all about searching for owls, is a week from today on January 31st at Long Pasture in Barnstable. Bundle up and get ready to have a hoot as you prowl for snowy owls. For Cape Media News, I'm Kelly McKenna.
Coming up after the break, meeting recaps. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Cape Media News.
There is a lot to cover this week in town government, and News Director Mitch Salk has the recaps for Dennis, Yarmouth, and Chatham. Take a look.
In Yarmouth this week, announcements included the local comprehensive plan's second community meeting set for December 29th at Town Hall, and an update from the Dennis Yarmouth Women's Club Luncheon, which continues to promote civic engagement in the region. Public comments started with Bob Wilkins, chair of the Old Kings Highway Committee, who raised concerns about appointment procedures for committee alternates. The board deliberated on open meeting law compliance and the importance of clear nomination processes before Wilkins proposed postponing the appointments to allow his committee to officially nominate candidates. Later, Joe Glenn commended the Yarmouth Police Department for their work and praised the school resource officers for their contributions to safety in local schools. The board then recognized several members of the Yarmouth Police Department for their exceptional work. Officer Jefferson Willis and the Detective Division received commendations for their quick actions in preventing a $110,000 fraud against a 96-year-old resident. Their efforts led to the arrest of 2 suspects and the recovery of $30,000 from a prior scam. But that wasn't all for Officer Willis. Select Board member Tracy Post had this to add about his service to the community.
In words of the principal at Station Ave Elementary, Officer Willis has been a continual positive presence in our building. At the start of the school year, there was a kindergarten student that was having a hard time adjusting to school. Officer Willis would stop by just to check on him, and he would take the time in mini breaks walking around the halls just trying to connect with him and make him feel more comfortable. It goes on, and I'm not going to read it, but Officer Willis bought every student at that school a Christmas present.
It's amazing.
And he was recognized for that, and I think we should recognize him for his efforts on that, because what you do, and I got to say it while your dad's here, so I can't not do it while dad's here, when dad's not here. But what you do every day makes a difference, And when I read these stories, it makes me extremely proud because that is the meaning of Christmas. And what you did for some of those kids was extremely important and should be recognized. And I personally thank you and appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you very much.
A discussion on retiree health benefits followed. 2 long-serving town employees requested exceptions to the policy, allowing them to re-enroll in town-sponsored health insurance. The board approved the request, citing their years of dedicated service, while also exploring ways to improve notification procedures for retirees in the future. Budget discussions took center stage with a presentation from the fire department. Chief Araske outlined the strategic plan to increase staffing levels to 18 firefighters per shift. This would improve response times, meet national standards, and reduce reliance on overtime and callback systems. The fire department highlighted the rising demand for services with an average of 22 calls per day and frequent instances of multiple calls occurring simultaneously. This proposed override would fund additional hires as well as restructuring of the command staff to enhance training and operational efficiency. The meeting concluded with updates on licensing decisions and preliminary discussions about the fire department's strategic initiatives. In Dennis, the meeting opened with public comment, highlighting a resident announcing their candidacy for Water District Commissioner. Additionally, the board encouraged community participation in town committees, with openings on the Economic Development and Arts and Culture Councils. Key updates included reminders about important dates for the annual town meeting and election, transitioning to the OpenGov online permitting system to streamline applications, and heating assistant tips for the cold season. The town is also pursuing municipal vulnerability preparedness grants for 2 projects: flood mitigation at Sassuat Harbor and stormwater improvements at Seaview Park. The board approved the appointment of 3 probationary police officers and discussed development plans for the Upper County Road property. Proposed ideas include a walking trail, green space, and small-scale amenities to balance community needs and environmental concerns. Site analysis and concept plan will guide future steps. Wrapping up, the board addressed ongoing goals such as the Conservation Commission's Pathway Project approval and funding for a new comprehensive master plan. Public participation and collaboration with local committees remain top priorities. And in Chatham, the meeting began with the land disposition agreement for Meeting House Road being postponed to February 4th, and the board approving a bake sale hosted by Monomoy Regional High School's class of 2025. The sale will take place during the Community Health Fair on January 25th, raising funds for their after-prom celebration. A major focus of the evening was the presentation of the preliminary fiscal year 2026 budget by Town Manager Joe Goldsmith and Finance Director Carrie Mazzaroli. The proposed $43.9 million operating budget and $2.9 million capital improvement plan aim to address community priorities while maintaining fiscal responsibility. Key highlights include funding for 5 new positions covering roles in public safety, public works, and the Harbor Master Division, and significant investment in infrastructure improvements, including sidewalks and sewer projects. The presentation also emphasized maintaining the town's strong financial position. The proposed budget reflects a balanced approach to managing resources, with free cash allocations prioritized for major projects like the transfer station and the Chatham Center for Active Living renovations. Finally, discussions included updates on the town's capital priorities, such as the $32 million sewer expansion and long-term planning to ensure Chatham remains a resilient and sustainable community. The board also addressed concerns about balancing the needs of schools, infrastructure, and other town projects as they prepare for the annual town meeting in May. And that's it for this week. For Cape Media News, I'm Mitch Sock.
Coming up after the break, sports and more. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Cape Media News. The Cape Cod Wildlife Center has shared an update on avian influenza. Here in New England, H5N1, also known as bird flu, has been detected in wild waterfowl, raptors, and scavengers. Ducks, geese, and swans are seemingly the primary species infected, while hawks, owls, crows, and vultures become infected after environmental exposure or from preying on diseased waterfowl. The number of backyard poultry infected is minimal thus far. Symptoms in birds include tremors, difficulty flying, inability to stand, lethargy, or respiratory struggles. While many birds show these symptoms, some will appear perfectly healthy while still able to spread the virus. While rare, some isolated cases of H5N1 transmission from birds to mammals have been reported. Since human infections are extremely uncommon, the public health risk level is currently low. Keep dogs leashed and away from areas while wild birds gather. Do not let them eat or play with dead wildlife. If you have outdoor cats, you may want to consider keeping them indoors to reduce the risk of exposure. To prevent the spread of this disease, avoid coming in contact with deceased birds or other animals. If you see deceased birds or any bird that fits the symptoms description, report them to the Massachusetts Division of Fisheries and Wildlife by using their online portal or calling 508-389-7890.
The Department of Human Services developed the Barnstable County Strategic Prevention Plan, which aims to prevent misuse of substances among youth through data-driven strategies tailored to the county's unique needs. Using local data and community input, the plan identifies key challenges, such as alcohol use among teens, lack of awareness about mental health and substance use, and multi-generational substance misuse. Strategies include mental health and wellness training in the community, interactive web-based resources, and caregiver education workshops. These efforts aim to build resilient and healthy communities across Barnstable County. Ahead of Substance Use Disorder Treatment Month, Governor Healy signed an act relative to treatments and coverage for substance use disorder, making treatment and recovery support more affordable and accessible. This legislation expands access to life-saving opioid reversal medications like naloxone, known better by the brand name Narcan, and ensures that these medications are covered by health insurance. Even though the month's almost over, there are still plenty of opportunities to join your community for substance abuse support. On January 29th at 1 p.m., the Bureau for Substance Addiction Services is holding addiction training for the workforce, service youth, and young adults. This workshop will provide an in-depth overview of the unique recovery supports for teens and young adults struggling with substance use. While this workshop is intended for professionals, it is open to anyone seeking to support local youth, and no prior knowledge is required. For more resources on substance use disorder, you can visit capecod.gov to view the full substance use resource guide.
The Arts and Justice Collective invites the community to Lunar New Year celebrations tomorrow, January 25th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Head to 529 Main Street, Hyannis for performances of traditional Chinese art forms, including lion dancing by Walloon Academy, Kung Fu by USA Kung Fu Academy, and Tai Chi lessons by Wendy Wu and students from Barnstable High School. Or participate in interactive activities like children's crafts, calligraphy, paper cutting, and dumpling making. Organized by members of the Cape Cod Asian community, this event is hosted by the Arts and Justice Collective and made possible by funding from Cape Cod Healthcare Foundation. The Arts and Justice Collective is a group of nonprofit and mission-driven organizations based on Cape Cod, including Amplify POC Cape Cod, Belonging Books, and The Cordial Eye. Brought to you by groups who value sharing community and culture, you won't want to miss out on this opportunity to learn about Chinese traditions. And lastly this evening, to Ryan Downs with a recap of This Week in Sports.
Welcome back to the Cape Media News Sports segment. I'm your host and local sports guy, Ryan Downs. It's crazy how fast we got to this point in the season, but it is the halfway point for winter sports, as all teams should have played at least 10 games by now. So let's check out how our teams are. This season, Barnstable has gotten off to a great start. They own a record of 9-3 in the 27th spot in Division 1 at the time of this recording. They had 2 games this past week and 2 wins, including an important league win over DY. Both teams entered the contest vying for the first place spot in the Cape and Islands League Atlantic Division. Last Friday, even though they were in their rival's gym, they played their game and knocked DY below a 500 record for the first time this season. Gabe Pichardo and Kwan Deza both dropped 19 points, and Caden Forts added 10 more in this 80-56 final score. This week, they took down Southeastern Tech on Tuesday with a final score of 75-47. Deza led with 15 points, but Adrian Pichardo, Gabe Pichardo, Power Mendez, and Caden Forts all contributed 10 each as well. The Redhawks' 7-game win streak will be put to the test tonight as they host a 9-1 Falmouth team in their gym at 6:30. Falmouth is currently 4-0 in conference play, so this will also have extenuating implications on how the Atlantic Division is decided. The DY boys have had an exhausting week trying to get their season back on track before it's too late. As we know from the last 2 recaps, their season has gone from great to good and from bad to worse. But this is a dangerous team. As soon as you think you've lulled them to sleep, they strike. We just mentioned how good of a season Falmouth is having. Last week, DY took them down to the last possession. Barnstable was another story, but they got right back to work this past Wednesday when they took Monomoy to double overtime before claiming a 56-52 victory. My point is, there's a lot of season left for these guys, and if teams aren't careful, Nantucket is well aware of what they're capable of doing. They have a 6-6 record right now and ranked 38th in Division III in the most recent power rankings. With some winnable games on the horizon, DY could be in a very different position in a week's time. There's somewhat of a similar story with the Monomoy team as the DY boys. They're waking up, and it couldn't have happened at a more crucial time for them. After starting off 0-7, they got their first win last week over CCA. They found what works for them and were able to replicate it for a second straight win this past Monday over Mashpee, with a final score of 51-32. Jackson Rocco was the difference in this game, as he dropped 35 points. And following their 2 wins, they took DY to double overtime. Granted, it was a loss, but it was a tight game, and at least we can see some fight in them. Rocco also became the school's first 1,000-point scorer that night, after burying a 3 in the first quarter. The Sharks are 2-8 right now, but are ranked 31st in Division IV, which would give them a playoff game outright. And it seems all this team needs is just a chance to make something happen. The Barnstable girls had a less than desirable week. They had a tough conference road game last Thursday versus a conference undefeated DY team. With a final score of 66-34, the Lady Redhawks moved on to their next game, another road conference game, this time at St. John Paul II. Unfortunately, they dropped their 3rd game in a row after looking promising going 4-0 in their first 4 conference games of the year. They took the Lions all the way to the end of the game, though, before the game-winning layup was made with a few seconds left on the clock. With the 42nd spot in Division I, they traveled to Falmouth tonight for a 6:30 matchup where they'll try to remain above 500 in their conference play. The DY girls only moved up 1 spot in this week's power rankings, as they sit at 16th in Division III. This past week, they went 1-1, the win being over Barnstable, where the trio of Savannah Azoff, who led with 20, Jalen Pierce with 16, and Maeve Dolan, adding 13, combined for 49 of the team's 66 points. On Wednesday, they went the distance and lost a tough one to a then 10-1 Bourne team, with a final score of 40-37. Pierce had 11, Azoff 10, and Sienna Laus with 7. They get the opportunity to bounce back tonight with a win and remain undefeated in conference play when they travel to a struggling Nauset team for a 6:30 tip-off. Finally, we got the Monomoy girls. They've had 3 games this week with a 4th one tonight that started at 5 p.m. In those 3 games, they went 2-1 to improve to 4-6 overall. A 46-24 win last Friday at Wareham was solidified by JoJo Reddy's 17-point performance. And on Monday, they had a home game versus Mashpee, where their 2-game win streak was snapped, with a final score of 44-32. But the next day, they took down Nauset in a close 39-34 finish. Olivia Sanford had a double-double, with 13 points and 10 rebounds, and Reddy had 8. Tonight, they host Martha's Vineyard and hope to be only 1 game away from 500 after it. And that's it for this week's Sports Update. Back to you, Jamie and Suzanne.
Thanks, Ryan. As COVID-19 and the norovirus are still making the rounds, it's more important than ever to make sure that you're up to date on your vaccinations.
The town of Barnstable is having another flu vaccination clinic on January 30th. Head to the HYCC from 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. to protect yourself and your loved ones from the flu this year.
And thank you for joining us this evening. If you have a story you'd like to see covered, please send us an email at newstip@capemedia.org.
Make sure to tune in every Friday at 5:30 for more hyper-local news that matters on Channel 26, Apple TV, Roku, and Fire TV.
For Cape Media News, I'm Jamie Horton.
And I'm Suzanne Tenere.